Gordon Brown claimed today that the financial problems we're facing are birth pangs, which will lead to a new kind of global economy. In the second of a two-part series, our business editor Robert Peston looks at what he's calling the new capitalism, which is emerging from the current crisis.
We may be seeing the dawn of a new kind of capitalism, partly because one of the defining characteristics of what looks a painful recession is that banks and companies are increasingly having to depend on funds from taxpayers for their survival. Our government has provided £600 billion of taxpayers' money to banks in the form of loans, guarantees and investment. And around the world, from Asia to Europe and America, there's been more than £9 trillion of taxpayer support for banks and other companies, which is equivalent to more than a quarter of global GDP. Everything the world produces. As I've explained, this isn't just any old cyclical downturn, any old recession. It's the end of an era. Not, I think, the end of capitalism, but perhaps the dawn of a new kind of capitalism, one in which the relationship between all of us and business changes in a pretty fundamental way. Many companies are now so beholden to all of us as taxpayers, they have to listen to what we say we want from them.
It's not acceptable, I would suggest, for people to accept aid from the government in tens of billions and pay themselves very, very large bonuses. Probably if you look back at the culture of those bonuses, in any event, they weren't really doing anything that justified them in skill level, and they were certainly operating using somebody else's money.
But the changes will go rather further than limiting bankers' bonuses.
Often it was the foolish and the greedy who profited, and now we can see that it's the thrifty, hard-working people who are being punished. And that's going to cause a lot of anger. And out of this, what we've got to do is to create a better basis, a greater sense of fairness within the tax system, a system of regulation, which obviously will never be perfect, but will nonetheless prevent the extremes of the bubble economy and the pyramid selling schemes in finance that we've seen.
There'll probably be a greater role for government.
I want to see a mixture of entrepreneurialism and responsibility practiced throughout our economy. And if it requires government sometimes to remind, to prod, to stimulate, but also to put in place a proper regulation from time to time to secure both that sense of responsibility, but without stifling enterprise and entrepreneurialism, then of course we would do it.
In the coming few months, jobs are going to be lost, both here in the city and more widely. Companies will be experiencing difficulties. It's going to be painful for millions of us. But if we look beyond to 2010 and 2011, a more stable economy may emerge, and perhaps we'll see the development of a new kind of capitalism, gentler, less divisive, less winner-takes-all.
I think it would be a very, very painful transition. I mean, excruciating for some people who've got little or no lifeline to get them out of the problem. But I do think it would be a better place. At its simplest level, I'd put it like this: before we got into this, there seemed to be an assumption that as a society we could get richer, wealthier, be better off by selling each other more and more expensive houses. Clearly you can't.
Do you think there's something about the winner-takes-all approach to business that we need to think about?
We do need a more ethical capitalism. We do need to recognise that there's more to life than simply money, that an economy growing is a good and important thing, but we've got to try and have an economy growing in a way that is increasing people's well-being as well as just their wealth.
The coming months will be tough, but we'll get through it. And as and when the sun rises on a new period of prosperity, we may enjoy a more stable, fairer, new capitalism. Robert Peston, BBC News.
And you can read more about the new capitalism on Robert's blog. There's the address on the screen. England's cricketers have been